Damien ruins horror movies.
I kind of dropped the ball because I'm recording this on Sunday the 15th and Friday was the 13th. Oops. What happened was because I knew I plan ahead for the most part. So I knew there was going to be a Friday the 13th this month, and my goal is to do a Friday the 13th movie every Friday the 13th. But I got sick, okay? And that's not a cop-out. I really did get sick. I mentioned that in the last video. Getting sick. So I was in my pajamas. I was sick for a week and everything just kind of got thrown off track. I'm better now. It wasn't the coronavirus, as far as I know. But did I beat it? First guy. And I don't know what's going on with this coronavirus, because I was at the store earlier and there really is. Because I went shopping last Sunday and everything looked normal. And I had already heard like that shit wasn't normal and toilet paper was gone and all that. So, but I went to Winco, and Winco looked exactly like it always does, which is not necessarily a good thing. But I went to Fred Meyer today, and just to look and see, I went to the old the toilet paper aisle. It is empty. It is wiped. Like that toilet paper is gone. And it's one of those things like I don't want to run out and buy, 30 packs of 24 rolls of toilet paper. But it becomes that thing. It's like in pro wrestling, like if enough guys are doing steroids, then everybody has to do steroids. It's just like in MMA. If enough guys are cutting weight, then everybody has to cut weight. And that's what this is turning into. It's like if everybody's buying all the toilet paper, your ass has to go out and buy all the toilet paper too. Otherwise, you're not having any toilet paper. And so that sucks, because like I'm not being paranoid. I know that by the time that I go, I need toilet paper, and it's like, all right, I better go get some toilet paper. It's gonna be gone. I didn't have room to store that much toilet paper. Our fast food place is gonna stop giving out napkins when you go through the drive-in. So there's this weird, because every couple of years we seem to have like this weird scare where it's like, oh, this is happening, now this is happening, this is happening. And I don't know if it's really a political thing. Part of me thinks, because I watched an episode of South Park a long time ago. It's kind of beside the point. It has nothing to do with South Park, except I was watching it. It took place like 2,000 years in the future. And I was watching that and I thought about it. It's like, well, if we're guaranteed, like in 2,000 years or more, that life keeps going, doesn't that make us kind of insignificant? So it almost seems like maybe it's not a political agenda or anything. It's like this people's natural need to feel important is to make up these like end of the world scenarios that only we can stop. And then suddenly we're heroes. Like, oh, there might not be a tomorrow. Oh, there might not be 100 years from now. Oh, there is if we all step up and be heroes. If we all start utilizing our resources and we recycle and reuse and all that, and then suddenly we're significant. And then the future without us doesn't seem as bad because we helped contribute to it. It's like, well, it wasn't for us. Our great grandkids wouldn't have a world to live in. The earth would totally go back, and it'd be like the caveman days all over again. I don't know. It's like there's this weird self-importance thing where it's like somebody starts it to like give our lives meaning. I don't know. It's a thought, but anyway, I'm feeling better now. Although today my ear kind of plugged up again today, and my nose is kind of sniffly, so I apologize. But for the last 2 days, I felt great. I felt like a good night's sleep away from being 100% again, so that's cool. That being said, because I figure, I don't know, I don't really like to address those things in these videos, because these videos are, I don't know, they're supposed to kind of just be about the movie, but they're supposed to reflect my life too, so I don't know. I do like to spend a couple minutes at the beginning, hopefully being funny. That wasn't funny, but hopefully providing a laugh or so. Anyway, tonight's movie, as you know, is late in terms of the holiday, Friday the 13th, the holiday. And it's Friday the 13th. We are on Friday the 13th, part 3. Yay! And it came out in 1982, directed by Steve Miner. One cool thing about the Friday the 13th movies is the first one was 1980, the second one was 1981, third one is 82. It's cool and kind of impressive. Like, people want to rip on these movies. Like, dude, they came out like boom, boom, boom. It's like the Saw movies. The Saw movies pretty much, I don't know if from Saw 1 all the way through, but they're a big chunk of the Saw movie, at least from like 2 to maybe all the rest of the way, were like every year. It's like like every October they'd come out. And it was cool because that used to be like kind of my Halloween prep. It's like, oh, a new Saw movie, and I'd go to the theater and watch them because, you know, I think you deserve it. If you're showing that much of a commitment, where it's like, hey, every year in October I'm going to have a new movie for you, then, you know, I got to do my part and go watch it. And so I watched several of the Saw movies in the theater, and it was cool because it was every year, same time. What's funny about this movie is, well, a couple things are weird about this movie. Because I was doing some research, because I watched it and I was like, when does this take place? Because it doesn't seem, I don't know. It was weird because I read that it takes place in 1984, but then like the one before it takes place in 1984, but also it takes place the next day. Like, technically this movie takes place on Saturday the 14th. So everything that happened in the previous movie, I think part 1 was supposed to happen like on Thursday, part 2 is on Friday, part 3 is on Saturday, which is a lot to have happened in 3 days, especially because of the weird endings of these films where little kid Jason jumps out of the water. But I'm gonna imagine that didn't really happen. That's Alice's dream. Normally I do like it when a sequel, and it's not mandatory, a sequel doesn't have to, but it is cool when a sequel takes place the very next day. Movies like Halloween 2 takes place right after the first one. Rocky 2 takes place right after the fight in the first one. Porky's 2, it takes place the morning after the first one. That's cool because it's like a continuous movie, especially when it's something you like. It's awesome, but it's got to also make sense. And then this one, because they recap the ending of the original at the beginning, and they show the ending with Ginny and Paul, and they show that, and then they go into the opening credits. And by the way, this is not only is it part 3, but it's 3D, which is funny because my DVD is not 3D, but you can tell all the little parts, like a snake jumping out, or like a spear shooting at the screen, or like the handles pointed like at the, and it's just funny because it's like, because there's like, I don't know, say there's 10 things that happen, there's only like 2 of them are cool, where it's like, ooh, that would be cool. And I've never seen a 3D movie before. Not when I was a kid wearing the stupid little glasses. That I remember there was a 3D movie that came out. I don't remember what it was. I was in either 3rd or 4th grade, and I remember because you could go to 7-Eleven and you could buy, I don't know, I don't remember. You get something in it, and it would come with 3D glasses, or you could buy your 3D glasses there or something. But I don't think I ever watched the movie. I remember we got the 3D glasses though. It was the old, like, you know, paper glasses with the red lens and the blue lens. And I've had comic books that are 3D. I've had G.I. Joe comic books that are 3D, and they're not, it's like, it's neat, but it's not that exciting. The opening song is cool because it doesn't, they don't go into like creepy horror theme music. I'll put a link down in the comments or in the description, just so you can listen to the Friday the 13th music. But it totally looks, it's got that 1982 look of like what movies that came out, like the font of the lettering and everything looks just like it. And to me, that totally reminds me of like when I was in 1st and 2nd grade, staying at my grandparents' house, and like the blockbuster movies that come out, and that's what all movies like look like. They all use that lettering and that music, and they all had that same kind of thing. And it was a really cool, it was exciting. Things are more exciting when you're like 7 and you can't go out in the world, so it's like you're just kind of experiencing it through your TV and through commercials and stuff. When you're like, oh, I want to see that, because your imagination just wanders, because you have to fill in all the gaps, because you're dumb, you're stupid, you don't know what's going on. So you just like, it's your perception and whoever you can talk to. And usually the people you can talk to are the people your age. Like for me, it's my brother and my sister. That's who I had to talk to. After the opening credits, we go to it's like the Crystal Lake store, which has a little, not a house attached to it, but like a living space attached to it, where Harold, and I think Harold's wife's name is Chili. I'm not sure. I'm going to call her Chili because I don't really give a shit what her name is, because she's annoying anyway. But they have a little store, and this opening's weird because it's not really necessary. And this movie's an hour and 35 minutes. We could have cut this 5 minutes out and gone like straight up 90 minutes. But Harold and his wife, they're like this married couple. And they're like this typical married couple that you see on TV from around like the late 70s and early 80s, where it's like, why are these people married? It's like, she's like this bitch and this guy's a doofus and he's trying to hide. It's like, if he could just get away from his wife and dirt. And it's weird. She's watching the news, and the news is like recapping what happened in the last movie. It's like, okay, so we got to watch it. Now we get to hear it. And meanwhile, Chili, if that's her name, has clothes hanging up outside, which is it's a weird horror movie thing. I don't know what it is, but like having clothes hanging up outside, and then there's a dude like prowling around it. In this case, it's Jason. Jason shows up, and Jason is bald. It's kind of funny because, like I mentioned in the review for the last movie about him having a shack, so it's kind of weird, like the humanization of Jason, where it's like, oh, he's got a house. This is where he sleeps. There's probably a kitchen over there where he makes his meal. Like the idea of Jason being a normal person, but then this makes it weirder because now we're going a step further. It's like Jason gets haircuts, and he's gotten his haircut like within the last 12 hours. It's like, what? He wakes up after, I forget how they stopped him in the last one, but then he decides, I'm gonna shave my head, which I guess isn't that weird. It's not like he had like a nice haircut. That'd be even weirder. He comes out, his hair is like part on the side and slicked down. And he's like, yeah, it's getting kind of shaggy. I mean, his head's shaved, but he's prowling around, and eventually he ends this marriage. He plays divorce court. He's judge and jury with his when he have a machete. But he kills both of them. And then we immediately flip to the subjects of this movie. I think they're going to be counselors. I'm not really sure. They're a group of teens that go to somewhere in Crystal Lake. Obviously not the same place, because otherwise they would know. It's weird that like nothing was restricted. It happened the day before. It was on the news, but somehow they got there no problem. And our cast, we got Chris is leading the gang. Then she's got Andy and Debbie with her, and Shelly's in the back. They go pick up Vera. Also, Chuck and Julie, they're driving a van. It's kind of like the Mystery Machine. They're driving around, but they go to Crystal Lake, probably a different part, but you would think that whole thing would be closed down because of like all the murders. And the murders are well enough known that it's already on the news. It'd be one thing if it was like on the down low and they got in before they could like close off the area, but it's like it's on the news already. So usually by that point it'd be hard to get in. You guys would be privy to something going on, but they go to this house. It's like attached to a barn, and they kind of check in and get comfortable. I think it's Chris's parents own it, actually. Shelly the dude and Chris is a girl, and they were gonna set Shelly up with Vera, because Vera's this hot Mexican chick. But like, I don't know why. Like, because Shelly's this insecure dude. He's overweight, and he's a prankster. He wants to be an actor, but he's always running around. He provides all the jump scares, because all the jump scares end up being Shelly. Like, oh, gotcha. And it proceeds to annoy the shit out of everybody. And finally, like, Vera storms off. She's like, I'm going to go to the store. and she gets in a car into a VW, and so then Shelly like goes after her. He's like, "Hey, can I go with you?" And she's like, "I get," which is funny because like she's storming off to get away from everybody because of him, so she takes the guy with her. That it's like, you're the reason I need time to myself. But yeah, you can tag along. So they go, and then they run into this like little street gang. It's 2 guys and a girl. Fox, yeah, I got their names. Fox, Loco, and Allie, and they have a little problem with them, and then they're leaving, and Vera's so mad that she's like, I can't drive. Can you drive? And Shelly's like, yeah, I can drive. So he gets in and he accidentally hits one of their bikes and knocks it over, and they see him, so they get pissed. And they go after him. And Allie punches the windshield and breaks it in. And then they narrowly escape. But then Shelly's like, you know what? Fuck those guys. And he turns around, he goes and crashes into all their bikes, and they drive off. And then Vera's kind of like, oh, my hero. She's like, maybe Shelly's not so bad. They get back, and Chris's not boyfriend, but kind of off and on love interest. I'm not sure exactly what their story is. He's there, and they give him back, and like Shelly like kind of gives him the keys, like, here's your car back. And Rick's like, what happened to my car? Like the whole time you don't know whose car it is, and it's like, oh, sorry about your car. And they go inside, and he's kind of pissed. Andy's girlfriend Debbie is pregnant. It's mentioned, but it's not like really a part of the story at all, because it doesn't stop them from doing anything. Like they go skinny dipping, they're having sex in a hammock, they're acting like their honeymoon level of relationship. It's early enough that she's not showing, so everybody goes down to the lake to go skinny dipping. Kind of gets glossed over, but the street gang show up. Like they like immediately find them, and their revenge is like, it's like, we'll show them. They're showing up they got these huge gas cans. And it's funny because they got like unlit cigarettes in their mouths. They're like, oh, we're gonna take their gas. That'll show them. It's like, yeah, take their gas in 1982 when it's like 25 cents a gallon. That'll teach these. It's like what kind of, you're a street gang. That's like a dumb prank. You know, it's like, why don't you just scare them like Shelly? Oh, we're gonna take their gas. And somehow they all, like, one by one, they end up going to the bar. The street gang, not the campers. They go into the barn, and Jason's in there, and he kills them all. And day kind of turns to night. Rick and Chris are out, kind of having a heart-to-heart, sort of. I don't know, it's weird, because, like, Rick has just been trying to fuck her the whole time. And she has been, like, kind of, no. And also acting weird on top of that. And then she starts explaining how like 2 years ago she had come to this place. So I don't really understand why she brought everybody there, because it's not like, because it looks like your typical like, I'm going to train these people to be camp counselors. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's her parents' old lake house, because she'd been there before 2 years prior and gotten in a fight with her parents. And then she stormed off and went out in the woods, and she was like sitting by a tree, and then Jason came and tried to attack her, and she got away. And Jason was bald, so like the hair timeline of Jason's weird, because in the first one, little kid Jason, bald. Second one, long hair. This one, he's bald, but she has a memory from 2 years prior, and he looks exactly like he does in this movie. So I was like, was he wearing a wig in the last movie? That's weird. I don't know why he would do that. That doesn't make any sense. But she like tells Rick about that, and he's kind of like, oh, and explain. And she escapes Jason's. Oh, he had a knife in his hand, so I kicked him in the hand. Oh, wow, and that worked? That's crazy. She's like, what was that? And they look at the VW, because the headlights had gone up. They were using the headlights as light, but the car's not running, so like the headlights died along with the battery. He's like, oh, and he walks up and he's like, oh, I think the battery's dead. That's weird. I just charged it. Like, you just keeps having. Oh, you just charge it. Cool. You should be able to leave your headlights off for the next 2 days. It's a source of light. You fucking idiot. They decided that they have to walk back to camp. But while they're walking back to camp, we get, and it's probably about the hour point in the movie where finally we get some death, like some relevant death, because we got maybe close to 5 deaths so far, but the 5 deaths are not any of the main characters. You know, it was like the three street gang guys and girl, the married couple. It was like none of the main characters of the story have died yet, and we're like almost exactly on the hour mark. So Vera is sitting on the dock of the bay. She's got her feet in the water, and it's dark. And then a hand reaches up and grabs her ankle. I should try and do this 3D style since it's a 3D movie. A hand reaches up and grabs her ankle, and she's like, ah! And it turns out it's Shelly. He's wearing a wetsuit and a hockey mask, and he's got a harpoon gun. And he's like, oh, I got you. And she's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with this? Especially because she was starting to like him again after like he's kind of saved the day against the motorcycle gang. So like he was back, he was finally into her. It wasn't like he was in her good graces, then he was out of him, and then he was back in. But like she was not attracted to him to begin with. But then she's kind of like, hey, this guy's kind of cool. But now he's doing this prank shit again that's annoying everybody. And she's like, dude, what is your problem? Because he's got this chip on his shoulder. Because he's like, well, I'd rather be an annoying jerk than just nothing at all. And she's like, well, I never said you were nothing at all. But he's like, well, I'm fat, so I gotta compensate by like being funny. But I mean, it's clear nobody thinks he's funny. So it's like, if everybody around you makes it clear that what your pranks aren't funny, then maybe stop doing the pranks. And he's like, yeah, I'm fat. And it's funny because like by today's standards, like, dude, you're not even fat. You're 1982 fat. Today's standards, like, dude, hey, maybe instead of being a prankster and an asshole, maybe try exercise and a good diet. Give that a shot, and then go back to being annoying if that doesn't work. But it's like you're barely overweight in your proportion, man. You just start running. You just run for a couple weeks, you'll be fine. So then he leaves, and he goes to the bar. And somehow he knows that Chuck and Julie had gone in there, unless they were staying there. I don't know where they set up. They're kind of like a side note. They're in this movie to be casualties for the most part, because they just smoke weed and they're kind of there in the background. So he goes in looking for them, and then the scene changes back to Vera, and we see a figure. We see Shelly. Shelly's back with his harpoon gun and his mask, and she looks over and she's like, oh Jesus, this again? Really? We just talked about this. Except she's like, wait a minute, who is that? Because she probably notices like he's taller and not fat and not wearing a wetsuit anymore. And then it's Jason, and he aims a harpoon gun, shoots her right in her eye. Because apparently Jason's like a marksman. But even weirder than that is Shelly's running around with a live harpoon gun doing pranks. Like, I have real weapons. I mean, because he does like a knife or an axe thing earlier. It's like, well, it's obviously not a real axe. It's fake and fake blood. But it's like, you have a real harpoon gun that you're pointing at Vera as a prank? That's not cool. Now Vera's dead. Hour in, we got our first casualty. Yeah. And it kind of assumed that maybe Shelly's dead too, because he doesn't have his gear anymore. And this marks the moment that Jason gets his hockey mask. This is the first film, part 3, where he gets the mask that he will wear for the rest of his murderous career. Basically, within the next 10 minutes, Jason kills everybody. Kills Vera. He goes in the house. After he kills Vera, he goes into the house where Andy and Debbie just got done having sex. Debbie's in the shower. And it's funny because Andy's like walking on his hands. And he goes in the shower for like a little trick scene where it's like, oh, is that Jason? No, it's just Andy. And he goes in on her in the shower. He's like, hey. She's like, oh, geez, you scared me. He's like, hey, you want a beer? And she's like, yeah. Which is funny. He's like, wait, aren't you pregnant? Why are you offering her a beer? But maybe in 1982, it was okay to, because you can still drink and drive in 82, I think. I'm not even sure if you had to be 21 to drink. So maybe you could like be pregnant and drink beer. I'm not sure. I didn't have a reason to care that year because I was 6. But so he goes to get her a beer. He meets Jason. Jason spears his ass and kills him. Then he goes up to the shower while Debbie comes out. She's reading Fangoria, which is kind of funny. And like blood starts dripping, which is not the first time that's happened in a Friday the 13th movie. And she's like, what is that? And she looks up and like, up in like the rafter of the cabin, it's like he's all like, he's like folded up and dead up there. And she's like, ah! And then from underneath, same way they killed Kevin Bacon in the first movie, the knife comes out of her chest and now she's dead. And then we get back to the barn. The power goes out in the barn, so Julie sends Chuck, hey, you should go check it out, see if you can turn the power back on. And Chuck's like, oh man, I don't want to do that, because he is scared and he's a hippie. So he goes down there. Guess who finds him? Jason. And so Chuck gets electrocuted. And then if we go back to Julie, she finds Shelly, who's not quite dead. He's got a gash. So he's dying, but it also looks like one of his pranks from earlier. So she's like, whatever, the boy who cried wolf. But then she's like, oh wait a minute, dude, you're really dying. So then she tries to make a break from it. Jason's up in the house. He pulls a fire poker out of the fire. It's red hot. Stabs her. Shelly like just dies before she actually ran away. So now we're down to, guess who shows up? The couple. Rick and Chris. They show up and everybody's dead. This is just like the last movie when Ginny and Paul. Ginny and Paul show up in the last movie and they're the only survivors left. Well, it's happening again. Only this time it's Rick and
Chris.
They go in the house and like all the lights are down because the power's still messed up, because instead of turning it on, Chuck got electrocuted like a klutz. And they separate. They're like, oh, let's investigate. And she's like, well, can I go with you? And he's like, no, I'm cool. I got it. So he goes outside and Jason finds him. And this is the first and only moment in 3 films worth of Jason. Well, 2 films. The first one doesn't count because Jason's not really even in it. But this is the first time we see like his superhuman strength, because he catches Rick and like has him by the head and he's like squeezing his head. It, like crushes his skull, makes his eye pop out, and it's 3D, so it's like whew. And then he's dead. And so
Chris is
trying to figure out what's going on. So Rick's body comes crashing through the window and Jason's right behind it, like, and she's like, oh shit. And she goes around and she finds a body, runs upstairs, big mistake. She goes up there, hides herself in a room. Jason's after her. She finds the body. I'm pretty sure it's Julie's body, but it's weird because there's like a knife in the back. So she's like, oh, cool, I got a weapon. She pulls the knife out. It was like, nobody got killed with a kitchen knife. It's like, I don't know why that body, which made me wonder, it's like, well, whose body is that then? Maybe that was from last movie? Was that a leftover? Because nobody in this movie got killed with a kitchen knife. So she's waiting, and Jason comes in, and she like stabs him. I think like she got him in the shoulder, and she like comes down and stabs him in his knee. And she goes to get out the window, and he kind of grabs her, but she breaks free, and she lowers herself down. She runs down. She goes to the mystery machine. She's like, keys, but she's got him. She starts it up, but it's the same van that the street gang siphoned the gas out of earlier. So she gets about to the bridge, and then it stops, and she's like, oh, out of gas. Which is kind of funny, because was the only reason for the street gang to be in this movie was so that she could run out of gas in this moment when she's trying to escape Jason. It's like, well, how do we keep her from just driving away and the movie ending there? I know, we'll have a street gang come in and they'll have a conflict, and then they'll come take the gas. And that's why they had that stupid childish revenge. I don't know, that and just more bodies to die, because that makes sense. Movies do that all the time. Slasher movies have to do that all the time. Introduce people that don't matter so that they can die before we have to hit the main cast. So then she's stuck, and Jason comes up. He's like limping up after her. He's like, it's kind of funny looking. And then he comes up the window and like grabs her. She like kind of shucks him off, and she goes out the other side. She runs back, so now she's back at the barn. She like locks it down. You know, it's got one of those things where you put the big 2x4 in it, and that locks it. Except she doesn't grab the 2x4 because she can't find it. She puts like the shovel in it, which doesn't stop Jason at all. And then she runs up again. It's like, dude, didn't you learn from being in the house? I mean, you've already had to jump off the second floor once. Now you got to do it again. And she goes up and like hides. But she does find a shovel when she's up there. So Jason gets up there, and then she just kicks him in the head with a shovel. He drops like a pussy. And then she finds a rope and like wraps it around his neck. It was almost like a noose was already tied. And then she like pushes him out the, like, you know how barns have that upper level that's all open. She pushes him out of there, and he drops and just, it's like snap. Like his neck should be broken. Then she goes back down. Oh, but when Jason came back in, he locked the door the proper way, and it was like in there pretty good because she had big trouble getting it out. But then she finally does, and she opens it, and Jason's sitting there hanging. And he like comes back to life and looks at her, and he's like, he grabs the rope and like starts pulling himself up and frees himself. But while he does it, he pulls up his mask. He's like, "Remember me?" And it's kind of funny because like, why does he remember her? Because obviously he does. She makes a run for it. He frees himself. And then Ali, the street gang guy who we thought was dead, he comes out. And he's like, gonna save the day. And Jason just like chops off his hand and kills him. But it keeps him occupied enough, you know, long enough for Chris to grab an axe. And she hits Jason in the head with it. Like right in the forehead. And at first it doesn't seem like it bothers him. He's kind of like, he's still after her. But then he drops. And like an idiot, she doesn't check or anything. She doesn't like grab the axe and just, I'm gonna chop you into little pieces. You know, it's the final girl thing. You know, hit and run, hit and run, over and over and over again. Rinse, wash, and repeat, and the killer should be dead, and he never is. Then she goes out to the canoe, or to the lake where there's a canoe, and she gets in it and she goes to sleep. Totally Alice style from the first movie. And then she wakes up in the morning and she looks up and she sees in the window, there's like Jason. He's almost like a cat trying to claw his way out. He's like, and she's like, what the hell? But he's got no hockey mask, but the blood, like you could tell he's been kicked. And then she's like, ah. And then he makes his way down the stairs and she looks at the door. He comes walking out like he's going to do something. And she does something, then she looks back over and he's gone. And she's like, oh, I must have imagined it. And then all of a sudden, a body jumps up. Mrs. Voorhees, her head back on her body. She's rotten. Like she's been dead a while. But she jumps up like little Jason style. And she's like, ah! And then it stops again and the cops are there. And the cops come. And they get her. They're like, yep, everybody's dead. And they put her in the back of the car. She kind of freaks out. And they drive away. And then it pans back over and Jason's in that same spot. Like in the doorway of the barn. Like his body's laying there with all the, you know, the head wound, the bleeding leg. He's just like laying there. And like, wait a minute. You know, typical horror movie cops. Like you guys scaled the area enough to know that she's the only survivor because they say, yep, she's the only survivor. But like a lot of the dead bodies were in the barn. To get in the barn, you would have to step over Jason, who's bleeding and wounded, to find those bodies. And they're like, I don't know who did this, but she's definitely the sole survivor. And then the movie ends. And it's like, all right. I don't know why Friday the 13th endings have to be so weird. So I get it, you want to be inconclusive, but this weird stuff where something happens and then it didn't really happen, it's like, you don't have to be all confusing about shit. Just like, all right, it seemed like he was dead. You know, you're gonna recap it at the beginning of the movie, of the next movie anyway. Why do you have to make it so weird? It's like we want to leave the audience like scratching their heads like, so do you think there's gonna be I don't know. I wish I could watch these movies. Like, I wish I could go into 1980 and 81 and 82 and all the subsequent years after and like watch these movies for the first time, not knowing what was going to happen, and see what I thought of them. But this one definitely, the first two were better. This is the weakest of the three because this one's just weird. It was just like, well, we want to cash in. We want to make a 3D. We want to be the first 3D horror movie, and we want to make money off this name. But props to them for getting their shit together so quick, you know, without missing a year. 3 years in a row, and then I think the next one doesn't come out till 84. But still, not a bad run. You know, 4 movies in 5 years. It's way better than I can do. The Badass Award should go to Chris because she is the seemingly virgin. She's the innocent one. She's the one that pushes temptation away. She refuses Rick, who's constantly like trying to go for the next move, and she's trying to figure out things. The problem is she's also responsible for this whole situation. She gets the Gilligan Award because she was there 2 years prior. She had run into Jason before. She didn't level with her friends. She didn't let them know that they were in any danger at all. She wasn't like, hey, I want you guys to go on this trip with me so we can find this guy and you guys can help me stop him. She took them out blindly and led them to their deaths. Chris is not a hero. Final Girl, maybe hero. She is not. What did we learn? Survival tips! Maybe keep the news on when they're reporting a local murder spree. Buy a fucking dryer. Who hangs their clothes to dry? You're just asking for pervs. Don't hide. Run. If you enjoyed that video, hit like, subscribe, and share it. And I will see you next week.